Thank you, Jai Govindji, for welcoming me today to a marathon of covering the fifth and the sixth chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So today is the fourth day, and we have 14 more days to go. The entire sessions that we cover are based on Bhagavad Gita as it is, Yatharup. We will get to that and some more a little later, but it's based on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Today, as I said, we're going to cover two chapters. The first chapter is entitled Karmayoga, and that is the fifth chapter is called Karmayoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And the sixth chapter is also something that we shall be covering today, and that is Dhyana Yoga. And both of these, in the last few days, we've been also going through the various acronyms for the different chapters. Chapter 1, just to refresh, was called Doubt. Chapter 2, Gita. Chapter 3, Tree. Chapter 4, Years. And today, the fifth and the sixth chapters are entitled Step and Easy. Step easy into the session today. It's going to be hard for me for sure. These two chapters are large chapters. A lot of wonderful concepts being introduced by Lord Shri Krishna into these two chapters. So let me start with a prayer. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishta Shri Chaitanyam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just a very, very quick recap of what we covered. Every single aspect or a word in this slide I would not cover. I shall be jumping. And the first day, we covered observing the armies. Arjuna is confused and he gives out various reasons not to fight. He talks of compassion, enjoyment, saintliness, and fear of sinful reactions and destruction of family. And he puts down his bow and arrow when right in the midst of the two armies. On chapter 2, his questions or confusion still continues. And he brings about arguments on indecision. He's undecided. Should he fight? Should he not fight? In that condition, he surrenders to Krishna and he says, Krishna, you are now my guru. Please instruct me. I am a disciple surrendered unto you. And that's the beginning of the instructions of Krishna. In the second chapter, because Arjuna was horrified at the thought of killing his relatives, Krishna is giving him the summary. Krishna tells him about the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy means the analytical study of matter and spirit. He talks about the soul. We have all gone through that. And he talks about the difference between the soul and the material body. And then he talks about karma kanda. That is, you do spiritual activities with some benefit in mind or do something with a result in mind. Then Krishna brings in the concept of Buddhi Yoga or Nishkama Karmayoga. And that theme of Nishkama Karmayoga continues through the Bhagavad Gita in the third, in the fourth, even now in the fifth and the sixth, you will see the same aspects being continued. Of course, the Lord will then take us through the various other aspects of Jnana and finally to Bhakti. As Nishkama Karmayoga, we also covered the art of work and the results and what are the symptoms of realized souls. The third chapter, Arjuna is asking Krishna a question. Do you want me to fight? Why should I fight, Krishna? And he says, you recommended the Buddhi Yoga and you condemned fruitive activities. So Arjuna is now confused. He thinks Buddhi Yoga is retirement from active life. Now the same theme is going to come on the fifth and the sixth chapters too. The very first verses, Arjuna says, what is sannyasa and what is karma? Please keep telling me that. And Lord Krishna says, hey, Arjuna, hold. I've actually recommended one process which has got two stages, that is karma and jnana. And then he gives a view about the Sankhya and the Karmayoga and what it leads to. But ultimately, in short, it says the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is work only for Krishna. And that is karma. And that is a single pointed process that covers both the stages of jnana and karma, or Sankhya and karma. Both are covered within the same. Then in the fourth chapter that we came on, it's entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Krishna gives a conclusion. And finally, Krishna does say, Arjuna, I hope your questions are answered now. Get up and fight. Uttishta and fight. Then Krishna, in the fourth chapter, gives a very wonderful overview of his appearance and activities. Says that Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Then he says, I reciprocate to different people according to their level of surrender. And then he talks of the Varnashrama system. So today we'll briefly touch upon some aspects of Varnashrama system. And then he explains the intricacies of action. And this is where he brings in the topic of karma, akarma, vikarma, etc. And then he describes various types of sacrifices that are there in the Vedas. But he says, while you may do all these sacrifices, without proper transcendental knowledge, any of these sacrifices are not giving you the ultimate benefit. Ultimate knowledge is that all jivas are part of Krishna, and transcendental knowledge destroys all karmic reactions and bring attainment to the supreme peace. Now, today's topic, fifth chapter, is going to give us all the peace formula. The last two shlokas, every day we were going to cover one shloka, so there will be two shlokas covered, but coincidentally today, both the shlokas that will be covered are the last shlokas of the fifth chapter and the sixth chapter. Not limiting it, we shall have a couple of shlokas that we shall discuss as the chapter progresses. So, just to recap again, Krishna tells Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminates in knowledge. Krishna glorifies jnana and speaks of action in inaction and inaction in action. And how while you're doing all your activity, you are still not attached to doing it for sense gratification, and therefore that is called inaction. Then he says, armed with yoga, stand and fight. And now, the understanding of Arjuna here is that renunciation in knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work, sannyasa, that I should give up everything, give up all my work and move on. But the other question that he has is, work and renunciation appears to be incompatible. And Arjuna at this point of time is saying, Arjuna's understanding what Arjuna lacks, that work in full knowledge, devotional service is non-reactive and is therefore the same as inaction. So the Lord very clearly gives a view here about sannyasa, and he compares it with Karmayoga, which is the main title of the chapter. Karmayoga, many times we think is just activity, but Karmayoga means the real activity of ours, and that real activity is to serve the Lord. That will be understood as we progress. So in the fifth chapter, Krishna talks about Karmayoga. It begins with Arjuna asking the question, which is better, work in devotion or renunciation of work? And the Lord explains in detail the process of achieving liberation through the process of yoga. He takes us through Nishkama Karma, which he had already covered before. And he talks about perform activity in knowledge with detachment to fruits to work. And then he talks about the platform of knowledge, entanglement, knowing the three doers. The three doers are being introduced by Krishna here. So the super soul, that is the Lord, the Jivatma, and the body. So these are the three doers. So he explains what is what. Then the platform of knowledge. Then he talks about liberation. And that is, liberation is focusing one's consciousness on the super soul, on the Paramatma, is itself liberation. And he describes in detail about Ashtanga Yoga. In the fourth chapter, there was a very brief topic, but in the fifth, there is a very brief view of Ashtanga Yoga. In the sixth, he goes into detail on Ashtanga Yoga. And then the peace formula is the closure of chapter 5. Moving on, chapter 5 has got 5 sections. And 6, sorry. And the acronym is STEP. The first two, Arjuna is asking, today, should I take sannyas? Should I renounce work? Many times we think becoming spiritual means wearing saffron clothes and going out of the home. Sorry. Sthane sthitaha, stay where you are, do your activity with devotion, is what the Lord says. So, stay in the world is the first instruction Krishna gives here. And he says, but do not be attached to the results of your activity. Do everything with a mood of detachment and do it as an action for me. And then he talks about the three doers. And the three doers are the soul, the material nature, and the super soul. Right? Then the equal vision. He talks about how a person who will be liberated if he is able to look at everybody with an equal vision, and he then focuses one's consciousness on the super soul. He talks about liberation briefly about Ashtanga Yoga process in just 2 shlokas, and then is a peace formula. Let's get on to the main topic of today. Stay in the world. Nishkama karma is equal to, but easier than renouncing work, Krishna says. That's the summary. Arjuna again asks Krishna whether renunciation is superior to working in devotion. Krishna replies that devotional work is superior to renunciation of work, and that one who is detached from the results of his work is one who is truly renounced. So he doesn't say stop working, do your work, but do not be attached to the results of your work. We did see karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, etc. And then in the next section, he says, although the results of renunciation and devotional service are ultimately the same, both lead to liberation, but devotional service is superior, for the devotee can quickly achieve Krishna. Now, in the first and the second verses, Arjuna asks, what is better and beneficial, renunciation or work? Krishna says, both are good for liberation, but devotional service is better. Yat Shreya eteyorekam tanme bruhi su nischitam. Please, Krishna, you told me many, many things. You told me about this and that. Now I'm confused. Tell me one thing. And for sure. So please tell me what I should do. So with that, Arjuna's understanding we already covered was renunciation involves cessation of all kinds of work. Take sannyas and go away. Stop the war. Run away from the war. So that's where he's at the last stage in the war, in the battlefield. But he thinks that he should walk out. And he says, work and renunciation appears to be incompatible. How can I both do work and renounce? Is it possible? No. If I have to be a spiritualist, I should not do any material activities. And if I do material activities, I cannot be a spiritualist. No. The entire Krishna consciousness that's taught in Bhagavad Gita teaches us how we can do our activities, and any activity that we do, how we can do it in the thoughts with the Lord, of the Lord, and do it as an offering to the Lord. And Krishna tells him about the path of action, fruit of actions. He says fruit of actions means doing activity with fruits in mind and actions in Krishna consciousness. The fruit of actions binds one into the cycle of birth and death. So because you're doing things for sense gratification, you're doing things with something material in mind as a return. But actions in Krishna consciousness, our devotional service, or actions is the way by which we can get out of material bondage. So that is action that we do. It's not that we do a different set of activity. You're going to do the same, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, but you will do it all with Krishna in your mind. And this, he says, the only solution is to develop love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Now, action in full consciousness, okay? And then he says the path of renunciation, jnana or spiritual identity, is many times dry, speculative, and so he's not encouraging him to renounce. Karmayoga vishishyate, he says, get into action. So this is the background that he gives here in the first and second verses. Now, very clearly, the Lord talks about Phalgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. Vairagya means renunciation. The Lord is also called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means he's got 6 things. Ishwara, that is all wealth, all strength, all beauty, all fame, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Means he became the charioteer for Arjuna. So he was a supreme renunciant. And he did so many other things in this particular battle and throughout in Bhagavatam, you'll be able to see. But us, how should we renounce? To renounce means, oh no, today I've got the Bhagavad Gita, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, so I'm not going to do any work. Is that renunciation? Or all my capabilities that I have, I apply it properly in service of the Lord. So accepts everything in relation to the Lord and puts it all in the use of the Lord. That is appropriate renunciation, which is called yukta, means appropriate renunciation. Palgu is renounce things without knowing that this is useful in service of the Lord. You understand? They're very nice concepts. I'm not getting into detail. I have a large portion to cover. So in simple, yukta vairagya means everything belongs to the Lord. And I should use everything in his service. And I should not claim proprietorship. Even my house, my family, my wealth, whatever I have belongs to the Lord. He is the proprietor of everything. Aishwaryasya samagrasya also as Bhagavan means he owns all the wealth of everybody in this world. In later on in verses 4 and 5, the Lord talks about Karmayoga and Sankhya again, says that both are same, both lead to spiritual realization and have the same conclusion. But in the Sankhya Yoga, there is a need for renouncing activities, and many times people, falsely renounce. The Palgu Vairagya comes in. They renounce before their heart is fully cleansed. They renounce before they are fully ready. But both Sankhya and or Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, the result is same. Aim is the same. But in the Sankhya, they renounce, and sometimes they renounce early, and the aim is to find the soul of the existence. And they are trying to, through analytical study, you see the tree here, they are trying to study and see what is what, but they're trying to find the root. Sankhya is trying to find the root. Naiti, naiti, is this the truth? Is that the truth? They want to detach from matter. But Karma Yoga is always engage senses in devotional service. And here's simple formula is attach yourself to Krishna. So the two paths, one is detach from matter and the other is attached to Krishna. Both are same because ultimate result may be the same. But this is what the Lord recommends. Attach yourself to Krishna. Apply yourself in devotional service. And that's the ultimate goal of self-realization. And that, he says again and again, Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. Process is easier and it quickly gives liberation. And there's a detailed verse here that talks about the renunciation and work in devotion. And he talks about the risk of fall down is there in the renunciant, but here success is guaranteed. Even though you're a beginner, you're just newcomer, you're just starting, you're an infant in bhakti, but still the Lord will be there to protect you. But when you have to be renunciant, it's a very long process and a tough process. And it's incomplete, he says. But bhakti is complete renunciation, as you are using everything in service for Krishna. Here they are trying to find the root, who is Vishnu. And here in bhakti, we know that the root is the Lord, Krishna. And all we are going to do is water the root. Water the root with our bhakti. Water it with chanting the names, with satsanga, with hearing, seeing, visiting temples, etc. Process there was to detach, which is tough for all of us. Detachment is not easy. But here the process is attach. When you attach to Krishna, automatically detachment comes in. Do not think that I have to detach everything, then only I have to come to bhakti. No. Bhakti, you start slowly, whatever needs to be detached. Whoever wants to detach from you, they will detach automatically from you. And this process brings more happiness. Here the senses are engaged. You're not restricting the senses. You're able to eat. Eat Krishna Prasadam. You are able to have familial relationships because you want to grow your family and bring them into bhakti. You're doing all your activities, but with the Lord in mind. And this process is very quick. The process of renunciation and yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, is a very long drawn process. But here, it may even here take many births, but it is still quickly achieved. Lord says, Achirena Adigachati. And the ready study is Bhagavatam. And so this is just a very quick synopsis that how the Lord is covering. In the next section, the topic is covered of, again, the Nishkama Karma. Again, the topic remains same as stay. The pure soul doesn't become entangled. Although working, because he fixes his consciousness upon Krishna. The material senses are simply engaged with their sense objects. One who does his duty without attachment, steadily acting with body, mind, and intelligence and senses, satisfaction of Krishna, attains peace, while one greedy for fruits of his labor becomes entangled. If you have too many desires in the world, you are never going to be happy. We did cover that also. Dhyayato Vishan Pumsaha, to complete bewilderment and fall down. But actually, if you are serving Krishna, you attain everlasting peace. And that's the final shloka of the chapter also. So in verse 12 again, I would like to go into this and then come into verse 12. Here, I'm covering verses 7 to 12 in one slide. It's a busy slide, but just watch. Action of a person acting in nishkarma. A person, nishkama. Kama means with results in mind, nishkama without result in mind, which means I don't get results, but I give all the results of all my activities to Krishna. So his mind and senses, a person, such a person, his mind and senses completely controlled because he knows how to water the root. And a devotee is always a servant. And therefore, and he's not only a servant of the Lord, he's a servant to all. He's in pure consciousness. His mind and senses are fixed in Krishna's service. And so he's got no chance of a fall down and deviation, right? But then here, and that person in Nishkama Karma acts without attachment and no desires for results. Now, you see a picture here of a lotus or a lily and a lotus leaf. I don't know how many of you have seen it. If you see a drop of water on the lotus leaf, the water will never stick onto the lotus leaf. It will fall off any time. So our life is like that too. So in that way, the devotee is in the material world, but he is very, very detached. He is always only thinking of attaching himself to serving the Lord. And he acts with mind, intelligence, and senses for purification. And that is his entire purpose. Okay? Ihayasya Harer Dasye. His topic is how to become a Das of Hari, Hari Das. If you see in many of our names, we have Das. We are not the Lord and the servant of the Lord. And then in this part, the coverage is about the realization of a person. Now, first is how does he act? What is his realizations? He knows that the soul is inactive materially and he is aloof. So he's not associating his own body with the soul. He knows that the soul is inactive. The soul has to only serve the Lord. So he is aloof. He does all his activities, but he is aloof, just detached, and sees all the living entities as spirit souls and part and parcel of the Lord. Mamaivamsho jiva loke. That is, everybody is a part and parcel of the Lord. So therefore, I have to serve everybody. I have to serve every one of them. He sees all living entities. And therefore, he waters the root. And when he waters the root, automatically everybody else gets watered too. Then he knows material activities as interactions of senses. And so he carefully wants to remain aloof. And he does it for the sake of living, but he does not get over entangled. And the results of such action, he does not incur sin. And he is never entangled. And he works according to Krishna's desire. He doesn't work to his desire, right? And he attains unadulterated peace. Now, the topic of peace is coming right through in the chapter, right? So, a person who works in Krishna consciousness is attached to Krishna. A person who is in body consciousness is attached to results. It says, Atmendriya Priti Icha Thare Bale Kama. That's called Kama. To do please your own senses, but to please Krishna's senses is called Prema or Bhakti. In short, attachment to activities with results and attachment to serving Krishna. I'm jumping this slide a little faster to be able to cover my portion. So the next section is the three doers, very important. Many times we confuse, and yesterday Mohan Prabhu also picked up on the topic. The three doers are the soul, material nature, and the super soul. Now, the soul is called the Jivatma, super soul is the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, and the material nature is the nature of the Lord. Now, the Lord's creations, the energies are inferior and superior. We'll come on to that. So the inferior energy is called the material nature, and the superior energy is the Jivatma. A living being who knows that all bodily activities are automatically carried out by modes of material nature, after those activities are sanctioned by the super soul, attains enlightenment through that knowledge. There are some interesting topics that we will come on to. In verse 13, he talks about the role of a Jivatma. The Jivatma resides in Navadware Pure Dehi. He lives in this house which has got 9 gates. And what are those 9 gates? Two eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, an anus, and genitals. But though he is engaged and is living here, you can still, sometimes being engaged here is a cause of suffering. But because of forgetfulness of the Lord and because of identifying with material nature, we are engaged. And therefore, when we are placed in this body and we live in this city of 9 gates, the soul, is seems to be conditioned, but the soul does have a choice. Jivatma has a choice on what we can do. I have a choice to keep away from Bhagavad Gita or get to Bhagavad Gita, in short, to spiritual progress. And in this process, the solution for the suffering of the soul is Krishna consciousness, bhakti, that revives one's original position and it allows us to come out of our embodiment. And even though we live in this body of 9 gates, we will be able to live happily. And this is possible, okay? As Shvetashvatara Upanishad states, the living entity identifies with the Lord within himself, and he becomes just as free as the Lord. When you identify with the Lord, you become as free as the Lord, even though you are engaged in this body. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both outer and inner activities of the material body. Now, in this particular slide, you are able to see about the living entity does not create activity. Now, this is where the questions, very interesting aspects come in here. The Jivatma does not create the activity, nor induces people to act, nor creates fruit of action, all enacted by modes of material nature. So the Lord talks about Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and the 3 modes of material nature. You see how the Lord is there, the 3 modes are there, and the individual Jivatma is there. And like a puppet, we dance with this material activity. But we do have an independence, and we need to see how to say, no, I won't act to your will. So all that will come also because we'll be covering about the mind. The energies of the Lord, superior and inferior, we talked about it. The Jivatma, individual soul, is called superior, and the matter is called inferior. The causes of suffering is that we are in contact with material nature since time immemorial. We take so many births and we keep coming on into the same body, and our body is temporary, and therefore the results of this body, whatever we do of activity, is also temporary. And in ignorance, we identify the activities of body, and therefore we suffer the result. But the best process is to get out of the water. Now, if you are in the sea and you're submerged and the waves are coming one after another, you can never survive until a guru comes, lifts you, or somebody is there, a life, what do you call it? A lifesaver is there, and he pulls you out. And so we need to see how to get out of this situation of being engaged and being governed by the material nature and think about the Lord. And I think we're all made the first step in that direction by trying to understand. So living entity is not the master. We need to understand. We are not the master, but we many times think that we are the master. Okay? And so we are not the proprietor, neither are we the controller of actions and reactions of the body. And so that point is brought in here. Again, here, the Jivatma is called Anu. The quality-wise are the same. Quantity-wise, we are different. We did cover that initially. Anu is small, atomic. Vibhu, the Lord, is omniscient and is full of 6 opulences, as I had described to you before. And the Jivatma, therefore, gets prone to ignorance due to limited power. Even though the soul is Satchit Ananda, quality-wise, it has got the same Satchit Ananda that the Lord has, but still, he sometimes gets limited. And he also has a desire for conditioning. And so the Jivatma desires to be in a certain condition, and that brings us back into the cycle of birth and death. But if he then looks towards the Lord, then there's a way by which you can get out of that cycle. And so the Paramatma is a witness, and the Jivatma is the bird that is standing next. So the desires of the living entities are fulfilled only by the Lord. He fulfills the desire as one deserves. Man proposes, God disposes. So the understanding here is, I have a desire, and therefore the Lord sanctions it. So nothing can happen without the sanction of the Lord. We have heard, not a blade of grass can move without the sanction of the Lord. So the man is proposing it, or he's thinking about it, he's desiring it, and the Lord disposes it. And That is, and the Lord is constantly seated next to us and as a companion. And he, like when you sit next to a flower, you smell the flower. When you understand the desires of the soul, as he is seated next to you, he understands the desire of the soul, and therefore he sanctions it. There's a good example here that I would like to just very quickly say. There's a small child, and I'm in the gym or I'm in my house lifting something, and the child says, "Oh," my boy says, "Oh, I want to lift it." And he wants to show off that he can lift. It's something that's very heavy. He wants to lift uh, a mridanga, which is very heavy for him. So he's trying to lift it. The father does not stop him. The father is also holding it and lifting it along. So the child thinks, "Oh, I'm lifting it." But actuality, the father has lifted it. Similarly, if you see, when we as a child want to do something, the Lord sees that we want to do something. He enables it by helping us in the process. But he is the actual doer. But many times we think we are the doer. But it is my desire, because the father saw that the son wanted to lift it, then he enabled that to happen and sanctioned that to happen. So the Lord will sanction it. So whatever you think, he will sanction. You think negative, we say negative reactions. Think positive, right? You think negative, you will attain negativity. If you think positive, things will all be positive around you. So the Lord is neutral, and he gives you as per what you desire. He does not interfere with your desires. Let's move on. Knowing the relations, okay, between the super soul, material nature, and the soul, the Lord allows one to be detached from all fruits. I'm going to move away from this slide a little faster, and this gives you a summary here. And this says, when the soul desires, the Lord does not interfere, and the Lord is the director or the choreographer. And so he says, "Fine, you want it, take it." But the Lord, as a super soul, sanctions these desires. And when it sanctions, the material nature carries out the actions through the body, and actions are choreographed by the three modes. So, establishes the living entity is not the only doer. The three modes are the doer. Who is responsible though? The super soul is not responsible. Lord is not responsible, because I have chosen to do it. And the super soul is the ultimate controller, but does not initiate. And the modes of nature are the agents of the Lord, as we saw in the earlier picture. So the living entity, we are responsible. Many times when good things happen, we say, "I did it." When bad things happen, we say, "He did it, he did it, he didn't do it okay, he didn't do it okay." So we always are ready to blame others, right? So let us understand that we are the cause. Okay? Benefits of understanding the position of the Supreme, it leads us to real knowledge, that when we surrender to the Lord, we get real happiness and peace. In this section, he talks about equal vision, fixing his consciousness on the Lord. He talks about how sages or saints see people with an equal vision. And he brings another beautiful concept of tolerating, because many urges, sense gratificatory activities will be inspiring us, attracting us. How to, Maya Bazaar, when we go out into a shopping mall, every shop looks like I should own it, but I just that I don't have the money. So how to tolerate the senses, the urges of the senses. So let's look at that. So this shloka is very beautiful shloka. It says, "Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva swapakesha panditaha samadarshinaha." A pandita sees the spark of the Lord in a brahmana, in a shudra, in the elephant, in the cow, in a dog, as well as the dog eater. So, panditaha samadarshinaha. What does he see? He doesn't see that all of them, elephant is equal to man is equal to cow. No, he sees that in the elephant, in the man, in the cow, in the dog, in the brahmana, the Lord is there. Okay, so that's why he sees the mundane vision. Normally, people are looking at as species and caste. Many times, people accuse Hindus to be caste oriented, but it's misplaced understanding. But the spiritual vision is you consider everyone equally as a spark of the Supreme, and on that basis, you see an equanimity in everybody. You see the Paramatma in everybody. And then you, therefore, are able to see that, individual soul is only present in that body, but the Paramatma is present in everybody, and he's able to, choreograph everything that is happening. And then the material activities are going away. He samsparsha jaboga. When you do material activities, it is temporary source of misery, and it binds us into the cycle of birth and death. And therefore, the intelligent people Nateshu ramate buddhaha. They do not take part in these sensual pleasures. They are always looking at how can I get out of these sensual day-to-day pleasures. Rishabhadeva says human life is very rarely achieved, but it should not be used for just laboring. It should be used for performing penances. And as a result of these penances, you will get transcendental bliss. This verse talks about tolerance, the urges of the senses, and controls desires and anger by acquiring higher taste. The duties of the transcendental is to tolerate. But why should we tolerate? We should practice self-restraint and control. If you eat everything that you get your way, then the doctor is forcibly going to tell you that you have to fast. Rather, if you're controlled, then you know how to do it. And there are these beautiful things. Vacho vegam, manasakrodha vegam, jihva vegam. There are 6 urges to be controlled. Speech. You talk wrong, somebody hits you straight on the face. Okay? Similarly, the urge to you get angry and you ruin your job, lose your job. Or the mind is going here and there. You want this, you want that. And so you're not able to focus on anything, spiritual or material. Even in the office, you're not able to focus. And you eat just to please the tongue. And as you eat, the tongue is, you want to please the tongue and you eat. And that impacts the genitals too. So all your sense organs are impacted and sense gratification is non-stop. We have to know how to control this. And a devotee knows how to get higher taste. He rises beyond and he says, what is best? He also uses a speech, but to speak about the Lord. He uses anger. Sometimes Hanuman used anger to fight a bear. Krishna is urging Arjuna to use anger, and he uses his mind in service of the Lord. He uses his tongue in speaking or tasting, and stomach to eat, Krishna Prasadam, and for procreation. So that's called the Brahma Bhuta stage. When you come to that higher stage of doing everything to please the Lord by hearing, chanting, association, that is ultimate happiness, right? So there are various ways of meditation. So he says you should be fixed in meditation. Now, sometimes we may say, how by meditating I will achieve the Lord? Now, the examples that are being given here is this. A tortoise comes into the sand out of the sea and places its eggs and goes back into the sea, and it's constantly meditating. In its meditation, it is hatching the eggs. And the fish brings up its offspring simply by looking and meditating and looking at each other. And birds are constantly touching and feeding. Similarly, a devotee can also, though we are far away from the Lord's abode, we can still elevate to that abode by simply thinking of him. Even though we are in this body of 9 gates, we can think about him and engage in Krishna Bhakti and attain the Lord. So, and then the next section fully is talking about a vision of a self-realized soul. We covered this as a summary. Many of these particular aspects: equal vision, that a person has no attraction or aversion. Intelligence is fixed on the Lord. He does not rejoice. He is never attracted to sense gratification. He does everything for service of the Lord. And internal and externally, his behavior is how he tolerates it, and he applies his thought fixated on serving the Lord and his devotees. In this, the Lord gives a quick preview of Ashtanga, and then he jumps to the peace shloka, which is the most important verse here today. So the introduction to Ashtanga, I'm not getting into detail. Ashtanga, how does it help? Ashtanga has got 9 Ashtanga, and we'll get in the next chapter on Ashtanga, but it helps by they feel the presence of the super soul. It controls the mind, senses, and intelligence, and it enables us to become free from all fear, desire, and anger. So Ashtanga Yoga has a role to play. It is important. But, Ashtanga Yoga is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness. The jnani and the bhakti. And the bhakta is by thinking about the Lord, by always doing activities about the Lord, by eating Krishna Prasadam, by hearing Krishna's katha. He is already in a stage which surpasses that of the Ashtanga Yoga. And that is what the Lord is again repeating. So people, okay? And now, this is an important shloka. Let me chant the shloka today. This is one shloka of the day. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarva bhutanam jnatva mam shanti mrichati. A person in full consciousness of me. 3 things. Remember, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerity, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living beings, attains peace. from the pangs of material miseries. So to achieve peace, we need to know three things. And what are they? This is called the peace formula. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. That Krishna is the bhokta of all my tapasya and activities. He is the only enjoyer. Bhoktaram. Then that's the highest perfection. And this Krishna conscious process gives us the spiritual experience in this material world. And who is Krishna? He is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Sarva Loka of all planetary systems. Maha Ishwara. He's not just an Ishwara. He's a Maha Ishwara. That's why we call him the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no one greater than him. Mattha Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. There's nobody greater than him. Greater than the greatest of the demigods. So he's called the Supreme Ishwara, Maheshwara. And the living entity sometimes is under the illusion. He thinks, I'm the Ishwara. I want to lord it over. But actually, we need to understand that Krishna is the Ishwara. I am the Dasa. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Nityera Krishna Das. I'm eternally a servant of the Lord. Krishna is the only Supreme Lord. And so, Ishwara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karam, Ishwara Paramaha Krishna. That's what he's talking about here. So first is to understand that he is the enjoyer of everything that I do, and he is everything that I need to surrender into. And the Lord is not partial to. He reciprocates according to one's approach. And Suhridam Sarvabhutanam is a benefactor and well-wisher. Many times we think that, oh, I need to fear in the Lord. I don't need to fear in the Lord. I need to love Lord because he is my friend. Suhridam means Suhrud means Hriday, very close to my heart. Sarva Bhutanam, not only to human beings, to every living entity. This is a practical application of the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Let me cover one more slide before we jump onto the 6th chapter. So this particular chapter again, Arjuna is confused. Should I renounce? What should I do? Which is better, renouncing or working? And Krishna says the result of both are the same. And he says, apply yourself and do according to Nishkama Karma. And he gives a view of the result of acting in Krishna consciousness, how gradually, while living in the 9 gates, a body made of 9 gates, you'll still be able to realize me with your mind, intelligence, everything applied on me, how you'll be able to worship me, and you'll be able to tolerate very easily. Once you're able to do, all your mental urges can also be controlled. But the process of Ashtanga Yoga is a very tough process of control. It can take you centuries and janam after janam. Even this may take you many, many janmas, but this is going to be even a more tough process, very difficult in this Kali Yuga for us to do it. Just to come simply to the temple and chant for half an hour, attend one class for 1.5 hours is a tough thing. How am I going to do all the kathor tapasya? It is very difficult. But so the Lord gives us peace formula, simple. Understand who is the supreme proprietor, who is the supreme beneficiary, and who is the supreme friend of all. That completes the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And now we get into Dhyana Yoga. Let's all get to the Dhyana. This should take us another half an hour. And this is the larger chapter, but I shall again try to move. It's got very important philosophical matters. We are just giving you all an overview here. So I request all of you, please do not think this is everything, 18 days, 1.5 hours. No, we want to get you to think that I want to go more into depth. Read it for yourself. Own a Bhagavad Gita as it is. Read it. And just reading it is not enough. Let's not just make YouTube our guru and Google our guru. No. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. You have to approach a guru to understand what the scriptures are and how you can put it to practical use. And that's the importance of satsanga. That's the importance of accepting a guru. So I want all of you to get more into detail. So let's get on now today into the Dhyana Yoga. We already covered the topics. Lord very briefly touched upon Ashtanga Yoga. He says, the prerequisite was you should have been purified by Nishkama Karma Yoga. You should be fully in control of the mind, and one should be completely unaffected. You see the picture that is put in here makes it feel that, wow, this is very, very difficult. Huh? Many times people think Ashtanga yoga means just yogasanas. All those myths will be beaten up today. So let's see how that works. But here in the 5th chapter, 6th chapter, the Lord says, what is Ashtanga Yoga? And he again reestablishes that this path of bhakti is ultimate. The last shloka in the 6th chapter again reestablishes that out of all these yogis, the bhakti yogi is the best. So let's get on to that. So here he says advancing in yoga through detached work. Yoga Ruda, he talks about various stages, Yoga Ruksho and Yoga Ruda, the highest stage of bhakti. And then he talks about what are the further stages and practice of yoga, the need to control the mind, a lot of topics on the mind here. And what is the destination? Sometimes we take up to spiritual activity and maybe we are not able to, we don't know whether we are going to be successful or not. The Lord says, don't worry, even if you fall down, it's a benefit there. Rather than think that there is no Lord, not do anything. You think that even if you do not believe that the Lord is there, you assume that the Lord is there, do your activity. You're not spending anything in this process, right? You're enjoying singing, chanting, eating Krishna Prasadam. So what's your problem? You're not going to miss anything. So there is no worry about being unsuccessful. Everybody will be successful. And the Lord talks about the topmost yogi. Again, multiple sections, easy, EASY. Now, first is he's talking about the enemy and the friend. Now, who is the enemy and the friend? We all have the enemy and the friend within us. That's the mind. The mind can become an enemy or mind can be a friend, depending on how you control. So he's now talking about the mind. And then there's a yoga ladder that's being brought in here. Various stages of practice of yoga is brought in here, but then he jumps into detail on Ashtang Yoga, how to sit, to meditate, asanas, pranayama, pratyahara. We will look at all of that. And then he talks of success and failure, as I discussed. Oh, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? After all this time, he's been a devotee, but he doesn't achieve his goal. No problem. We don't achieve this goal in one lifetime. Any business, nobody, achieves it in just first shot. There's a trial and error. And with every mistake you make, you rise up and do better. Same, the Lord gives us a second chance to get up and do it. And so we may have multiple births, but definitely if you're applying yourself in the thoughts of the Lord, read Bhagavad Gita now, he gives you a better form. We'll cover that. And then he talks about the topmost yogi. So let me quickly jump on. Again, repeats that sannyasa and yoga are the same. Both demand detachment from desire for sense gratification. You have to detach yourself from sense gratification and attach yourself to Krishna. That theme keeps coming again and again. In the beginning, one must work. So do not think sannyasa means, I'm a devotee now, I'll stop work. Sorry. You have to take care of your family. I remember Mohan also saying this today. So the beginning stage, you need to work. And at a particular stage, when you'll be able to see your symptoms at that particular time, you can give up. But work has to continue almost until you have this body with you. But work has to be transformed into devotional work. That's the secret we have to learn. Okay. Now, this is the yoga ladder. We are all in the animalistic life. The other day I talked about sleeping, mating, eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. Animals do that, and if we are just doing that, people come to Dubai, earn the money, and all they do is if they are only involved in eating, sleeping, mating, defending, they don't think about further progress. People of all religions should think about the Lord, about their scriptures. If you do not do that, you're just somebody from an animal species, two-legged animal. But karma kanda is a person who does something, but initially, you go to Tirupati and you pray, I'll do my mundane. Please, I need a job. I need this. I give you 100 rupees. I need 1 million rupees. Fruitive worker, that is, do something with result, with sense gratification, with something that I need. That's the lowest stage. It's still a positive stage. It's better than animalistic stage. And that is still karma, selfishness, if you see here. And that early stages are called yoga ruksha. The beginning stage, infancy, is called yoga ruksha. And then you get to karma yoga and gradually to nishkama karma yoga, and you understand what is akarma, vikarma, etc. Right? And then you're getting into a yogi family. You understand you may sometimes be elevated to swarga and you go to the various planets. But even this is at a sakama stage. You still have some sakama. Given the jnana, you renounce fruits, but you're getting into speculative knowledge about Brahman. Okay, the impersonalistic philosophy comes in here. But from dhyana stage only, you get into the yoga ruda platform, the advanced stage. And then you understand about the Brahman and the Paramatma. And here you come to understand about Bhagavan, Bhakti Yoga stage. When after Bhakti Yoga stage, you get to Prema, and the Lord is waiting for all of us in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. That's called real Prema. This is called the yoga ladder. All of us should frame it and keep it in your house. And we need to assess ourselves. Nobody else needs to give you a certificate. You need to assess for ourselves, where am I? So the yoga ladder, as I explained this part of it, so the yoga ruda is where you renounce all material desires, not at the yoga ruksha stage. And so you at this stage, you do not act for sense gratification. Senses, because the senses are there, it needs some gratification. Therefore, you need to be gratifying it. So if you give it Krishna Prasadam, then the senses are happy. But you don't give it, then the sense can be the reason for a downfall. Right? Then here, How is yoga Ruda achieved? A person, a devotee, is constantly reading, meeting with people who are devotees, cooking for Krishna, thinking you're cooking for yourself, your family, your husband, but you mentally think you're cooking for Krishna and you offer it to the Lord and you give it to everybody, to all your friends and relatives. Similarly, wash your vessels, go to office, do whatever you want. One channel constantly thinking of Krishna, thinking that every activity of mind, even sleeping, is for the benefit of Krishna. Like the father, just imagine the father figure in the house or the mother figure in the house is constantly doing something for the children. The mother is cooking for the father is earning for the rest of the members. So we are all not doing it selfishly, we are doing it for others. So similarly, do it thinking you're doing it for Krishna, and then Krishna will take charge of our lives. Then here, again, giving up the mind, giving up the yoga ruda state, the mind is being discussed here. And the symptoms of one who is controlled his mind is being talked about here. This is a very nice shloka. Udhret atmanatmanam, natmanam avasadayet, atmaiva hi atmano bandhuhu, atmaiva ripuratmanaha. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So there are some important slides on the mind. The role of the mind. Atma, many times is considered Atma can mean the Jivatma, can mean the mind. Sometimes is also referred to as body, right? The importance of training the mind. Why should we train? So that we should deliver the conditioned soul, the Jivatma. If the mind helps, the Jivatma can then the mind can be applied on the Lord, and Jivatma can attain liberation. And otherwise, the mind can entangle you into the various material pursuits. A pure soul is entangled in the material world because mind is involved in false ego and desires to lord it over. And how should you train the mind? The mind is a monkey. Okay, the mind does so many things. When you say mind is a monkey, there's a particular thing like, the mind is already so fickle, is moving around here and there. Top, imagine a monkey, how restless the monkey is. Small children sometimes are like that. Hyper active children, they do. And already the mind monkey is already crazy. And that monkey is climbing on top of a banyan tree or a palm tree. And it also drinks liquor on top of the palm tree, and a scorpion on top of the tree bites it, and on top of it a ghost is also attacking the monkey. Imagine how crazy monkey this monkey would have been. Our mind, if we do not control it, will become a monkey, one step after another, which will completely control our intelligence. We should not allow our intelligence to be controlled by the mind. On the contrary, our intelligence should gradually take over control from the mind. So the trained mind is attracted by the glitter of material nature. The mind should be trained not to be attracted and not to be degraded. So the mind is attracted, and that's the cause. Okay. Now, the process of Krishna consciousness is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Ambarish, I did not include that slide. Your mind always in the thoughts of the Lord. Your hands always in serving the Lord. Your legs always in doing parikrama of Tulasi, temples, visiting temples, and your tongue in tasting Tulasi or Krishna Prasadam, your eyes in seeing the beautiful forms of the Lord and the devotees, your smell in smelling Tulasi or flowers offered to the Lord. In this way, you can apply all your capabilities in serving the Lord. And then the mind will get applied. So this is not just, you can't individually control the mind. You can't individually control one aspect. It's a whole package deal. When you go to a doctor, he says, take this medicine, but you should not eat this. You should not eat this. Come for a test. So bhakti is a package process. Take to japa. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So take on to it. Read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, attend some satsang programs at least once a week to recharge yourself and be connected. Otherwise, very easily you'll be pulled into the post-lockdown syndrome of trying to enjoy away, right? So this is an activity on the mind. Anatmanastu shatrutve, uncontrolled mind is an enemy. Okay, it pulls us into lust, anger, and illusion, and it degrades and entangles. But bandhuratma, bandhu means friend, or the same mind can be our friend. And controlled mind, the mind is controlled. It follows dictation of the super soul. Whatever the Lord says from within, it follows. Whatever Bhagavad Gita says, we follow. Whatever Guru says, we follow. The mind says, uto, uto, baito, baito, the mind does it. Otherwise, the mind is controlling you, and it is detached from self gratification, and that elevates. If you can befriend your mind, then it elevates. If your mind is your enemy, you are finished. That's the important aspect. Then the control mind. Mind is misled and abides by the dictation of the Supreme, and so unaffected by the dualities of the material world. The symptoms of a jitatmana, a person who has conquered the mind, jita, who is conquered, jitatmanaha, is he is unaffected by material dualities. What is this? Honor and dishonor, distress and happiness, heat and cold, coronavirus, no coronavirus, job, no job, money, no money, family, no family. Oh, heat and cold, summer of this part of the world and winter of other parts of the world. He is equipoised. He has come here. He knows he's taken his birth in this human form of life to serve the Lord, and he knows how to progress in it, irrespective of what comes his way. That leads us to samadhi. The further symptoms of the Yoga Ruda stage is he's fully satisfied and he regards with the equal mind. He's a well-wisher of everybody. He, like Vidya Vinay Sampanne we saw, he's affectionate to everybody, and he's neutral. He's never envious. Yeah. So all of these thoughts, he regards everybody, whoever, tata, even if somebody disregards him, he is still equipoised with him. And a devotee, therefore, is a person with a realized soul. And this is recommended. A Krishna conscious person is recommended to associate with other devotees. These are forums for which we bring interested persons together so that we can all together hold each other's hand and go back home, back to Godhead. Bhagavad Gita is the science that can uplift you, that can help you control your mind. And you can realize the Bhagavad Gita by rendering devotional service. Okay? Atha Shri Krishna Nama Adi means starting with the name of the Lord. So chanting the name of the Lord is very important. So you start sitting at your house, whether you have a Bhagavad Gita or not, whether you are a vegetarian or not, you are whatever, chant your names. Irrespective of what religion you belong to, chant the names. Everybody has a rosary bead, dasbi, chapamala. Please chant the name of the Lord. And that is the way for Kali Yuga too. And by that, we will achieve real fortune. Now, there are various stages of practice of yoga. Very briefly, I'm going to take you through. This is Ashtanga Yoga process. Now, the Ashtanga Yoga engages the mind and body and the self in Krishna's service. Krishna says where to sit, where to live, alone, a secluded place, but how to control your senses and fix your mind, one-pointed. Avoid sense gratification, or even say avoid fear and too much association with the opposite sex. What is required within a family life is right, but constantly thinking of somebody in the opposite sex is the main reason for fall down and even bad relationships within family life. So we need to know how to be controlled even as a grahastha. Okay, but as an Ashtang yogi, it's a very tough process. He has to abstain, be a pure celibate. We'll come to that topic, right? And then the results of meditation is he will attain God. And a yogi should not sleep too much, not eat too much, not or too little. And these are all being covered here. Yoga Ruda is being fixed in, and then he will be established in boundless happiness, and he never departs from the truth. And obtaining the perfectional stage through controlling one's mind. So we'll come to some of the perfection in yoga is he sees Krishna everywhere. Krishna has never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to Krishna. Such a yogi, knowing that Super Soul and Krishna are one, sees the true equality of all beings and thus acts for the welfare of all. 10 to 32 covers Ashtanga Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga also leads you to thinking about Krishna, but Ashtanga Yoga is not yet the full platform of getting to Krishna. You have to rise above that to the Bhakti Yoga platform, which is being clearly mentioned here in the shloka. So the Ashtanga Yoga, Hatha Yoga and Samyama, Dhyana Yoga, etc. Yama, Niyama. Yama means the restraints, the don'ts. Okay? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, etc. Niyama, the 5 things to be followed. The do's and the don'ts are talked about here. So here, purity, contentment, austerity, study, etc. Surrender to the Lord. Asana. This is what people generally consume, these two. Asana and pranayama, they think that is real yoga. Yoga means to connect with the Lord. Yoga does not mean just asana and yoga. This is required for us to keep our body well and fit so that we can think about the Lord. But people restrict themselves to just this, the gymnastic part of yoga. We have to rise above that. And that's what pratyahara means, withdrawal of senses. That's not just shavasana. Withdrawal of senses means the senses are pulling us in all directions. How to control the senses? Like how when a tortoise is walking, you get near it, a tortoise immediately withdraws its limbs. Like that, we should know how to withdraw limbs from dangerous things that can pull us. Many times you see so many baits, and we think, our tongue is being going. The fish is caught by its tongue, and when the fisherman catches it because of its tongue. Similarly, we need to be careful how to withdraw our senses from over enjoyment, and then come to dharana, dhyana, meditation, and ultimately samadhi. This whole thing forms Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is not an easy process. Yoga is not fully Ashtanga Yoga. It's only a part of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga means restraints. None of the yogic schools will ever teach you about restraint. They will never teach you about brahmacharya. We have to understand what Krishna teaches, and that's truth here. So here, how to practice yoga? Not to sit in a secluded place. You should not too high, not too low. Cover it with a cloth, and it should neither be, neither on the ground. You should be situated in a sacred place. You should sit very firmly. But then all this is not possible for all of us who are here in the cities. We are all sitting in our apartments and mini apartments with sometimes sharing rooms and disturbances. This is not a place for us to do some of these yogic sadhanas and yogic meditations. It is very difficult to do that. And therefore, the best means of spiritual realization in Kali Yuga is chanting the names of the Lord. This is called Japa Yajna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One day we'll get into that topic, but it's very, very easy. Even a child can do. We can all do. Sit in front of your altar in the morning. Before you go to office, 15 minutes, chant the names of the Lord. Wherever you go, you can still be chanting. So please do that. Then the Lord says how to meditate. Okay, we have covered this. He talks about rule of celibacy. I've already covered. I'm not getting into this right now. He compares Ashtanga Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. And he says in every place the importance and the beauty of Bhakti Yoga. Now we talked about relationship with Supreme. Devotees are connected to Krishna. And mind control, devotee is always thinking of Krishna. He is free of desire and possessiveness. I will share these 3 slides at least on the landing page so that you see it in detail. But then there are some important things. He says how to sit. For a devotee in Bhakti Yoga, no specifications, no sitting like that. No pranayama, no padmasana. In any form, think about the Lord. That's the only purpose here. And then you can be a grahastha, celibacy, dhyana schools. You should be a celibate, sannyasi. You can't be a married man. In this school, you can be a married man. You can have progeny, and you can have a grahastha brahmachari concept that we can discuss in the future. And then this brings fearlessness because Krishna is there. Rakshishyati iti vishwasa. Krishna is there to protect me. Mastuchaha, Krishna says, do not fear. And then the goal of life is Krishna. The others, their goal of life is multi-pronged. They may come from one stage of yoga to another, but you never know. They may not come up to the ultimate stage of Krishna. So Bhakti Yoga is better. And the ultimate goal of yoga practice, again, is in Krishna. And lastly, controls eating, eats only Krishna Prasadam, and quantity, and then sleeping. He is always thinking about the Lord. So even in his dream, he can think about the Lord. He sleeps less and is regulated in his work and recreation. And with all of this, he has got no material misery, and it can be easily performed. That is the importance of this particular activity. Right. So what are his realizations? So he's fixed up. He knows that the higher gain, if I'm spiritually involved, I'm doing something way better than just temporary benefit to me. And he is unshaken, he is determined, he is free from miseries, and he is ever happy. A devotee who is realized in samadhi, a yogi in samadhi, is always happy. And he sees the super soul in everyone's heart. He doesn't see everybody as just a man, a woman, a child, an American, an Indian, an Arab. Okay, he sees a spark of the Lord in everybody. And he never loses sight of the Lord. Constantly, he's got the Lord running in his channel. Satatam. And then he realizes Krishna as a super soul, and he sees equality in everyone, and he helps them. A couple of shlokas alone, I'll go into detail in this. So, the methods of attaining the Yoga Ruda stage. Now, principle behind the practice. One should practice with great determination, he says. With great determination. God helps those who helps themselves. It's not that, oh, Krishna, if you want, take me to Vrindavan. If you want, give me Bhagavad Gita. No, you have to make your effort. Recently, we completed the month of Kartik. 2 fingers. One is endeavor and one is blessings of the Lord. You have to endeavor and then the Lord blesses. So the God helps those who help themselves. And there's a nice, beautiful story here of a small bird who lost its eggs to the sea and it's trying to get into the sea and get its eggs. So how can it bring back the eggs? By drop, it is taking the water. Everybody else is laughing. Samudra Bhagwan himself is thinking, what is this bird thinking? Crazy bird trying to do. But this bird becomes famous, and Garuda gets to know. Garuda comes there, and Garuda beats his feathers like this, and he challenges Samudra Bhagwan, hey, you better return back the eggs of this particular bird, otherwise I will dry you up. So the determination of the sparrow got the attention of Garuda. So with determination, anything we do, we can achieve perfection. Utsahan, Nischayan, Dhairyat, Tat Karma. That's most important. Enthusiasm is required. Every day, wake up, sleep, lazy bone, do this. No, you have to be enthusiastic. Wake up, have a bath, dress up nicely, come in front of your deities, do some puja, be smiling, ever smiling, think good of people, think about how to read and how to talk about this Bhagavad Gita to others. Be fully with enthusiasm, utsaha, nischayat, with determination, dhairyat, and be bold that I am on the right path. That's important for all of us. Sorry if I'm a little heavy in some of those mentions. The nature of the mind, Godasa or Goswami. If you do not control the mind, you become the Godasa. Go means the senses, and the mind will make you enjoy your senses. And so you become a Godasa. Goswami, Swami means a person who can control the mind. That is, the intelligence has taken over. So that bit I have already covered. The result of perfection in yoga, I'm not getting into this. Then moving on to here, Arjuna now asks a question. Oh, this yoga practice, Ashtanga Yoga, many shlokas, too many rules and regulations. Arjuna, imagine, such a powerful warrior, such a capable person. He says, to me, it looks very difficult, Krishna. So what can I do? So Arjuna says, Ashtanga Yoga described by you is very difficult. This yoga seems impractical and unendurable. Since the mind is restless and unsteady, how can I control my mind? How can I do dhyana for hours together, sitting on a posture, etc.? Okay, so actually, say dhyat. Okay, it says Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnu. The 4 yugas, there are 4 different processes. The Krita Yuga, Dhyana, 60,000 years or more. Then Dwapare, the Paricharyayam. Okay, Treta Yuga is yoga. Dwapare, temple worship. Kali Yuga, very easy. Kalau Tad Hari Kirtanat. In just very short period, fast food, quick and easy process. We want everything quick, right, in this Kali Yuga. So the Lord says, and Arjuna says, how can I do it? This seems very impractical. So this is what is very important for all of us. We need to understand that Kali Yuga is very tough. We don't have the attention. And Arjuna's capabilities are so heavy, but he himself feels that this is a very tough process. And therefore, all the modern day yoga schools, which just say, come pay me money and I'll get you something, and then you can go and enjoy your senses better. Complete wrong philosophy. That's what we need to understand. So Arjuna says, what shall I do? It seems very impractical. Krishna says, don't worry. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati bhalavadradam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva suduskaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the mind. Arjuna is saying, the mind is very difficult to control. It's the truth. You can't even sit in this class. Even while I'm giving a class, sometimes my mind goes somewhere, right? And so that is where we sit in Dubai, but our mind can go in a second or a fraction of a second to Canada and any other part of the world. So chanchalam, restless, turbulent, very difficult to control. I can never control it. And more difficult to control than the wind. You can never capture the wind and make a vacuum bottle. It's very difficult. So he gives the practical problem for all of us. So how can I do it, Krishna? So again, this is the same. So I'm not getting there. So the various things, the mind is controlling, the senses are being controlled through the mind, intelligence, soul, body, etc. And it can just take us off in a complete different direction. So Krishna now says, Asamshayam mahabaho manor durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Lord Krishna said, "Oh, mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and detachment." Abhyasa means by practice. Practice makes perfect. Nothing comes easy. If you have to become a doctor, you have to study for 10 years. You have to become an engineer, you have to study for 5 years. You have to, anything you want to become, you have to put some hard work and effort into it. Without abhyasa, even bhakti will not come. It's not just that, you pay 1,000 dirhams to Guru and he gives you bhakti. Here it is. No, you have to put an effort. It's your effort, an endeavor. And he says, by your effort, definitely by practice and by detachment, you can control the mind. Then he says, abhyasena, which we covered, vairagyena. And abhyasa, you can do by the 9 forms of devotional service. We'll cover it in the next slide, or I may jump that. And but the foremost of all of that is hearing, by hearing. So we are all hearing today. You're all hearing. I'm talking. So as I'm also talking, I'm also hearing. Hearing is the first of the process, the most powerful. So we all have to apply ourselves in hearing Krishna Katha, hearing Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. Vairagyana, by detachment, slowly give up things that are just for us and think about how we can serve the devotees and serve the Lord, serve others. And by that, you get the Paresha Anubhava. You get immediately the feeling when you get into it, when you get into serving, like behaving like a devotee does, then you get the immediate taste for Krishna consciousness. Okay, that's what the Lord says. And by doing that taste, when you get the higher taste, the lower taste go away. And so you can slowly start controlling your senses. These are called the Navavidha Bhakti. I'm not getting into detail. It's called hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the Lord, praying, becoming a servant, becoming a friend, and ultimate surrender. So these are called Navavidha Bhakti. At different levels, we can take it. Different devotees have done different, but the prime and the first is Shravanam, second is Kirtanam. So we all have to hear, we all have to chant. That's most important. Now, Arjuna says, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? Krishna says, haha, chalita manaha. So, what happens to an unsuccessful yogi? And why does Krishna ask this question? Krishna is saying, especially in the Jnana Marga and Ashtanga Marga, it's very difficult for this age. So, people who adopt that may fall down. So, he's telling us what? And so, it's not very easy. So, sometimes even devotional process, you may take and you may fall down. You've seen many people who take up to the path and fall down. But still, the Lord says there's no laws of diminution in the process, right? Then Arjuna is again asking, it's like, a riven cloud. It's like a cloud coming, but there's no rain because the wind has broken it away. So in this way, Chinna Brahma, Iva Nashyati. So sometimes we do, and I'm become, I take on to devotional service. I'm neither enjoying material life nor have I achieved perfection. I've not passed my examination spiritually. So what happens to such a person? So Krishna says you have a materialistic path and you have a spiritual path. A materialistic path, the person will never have happiness. The spiritual path, even if you fail, the Lord will give you an opportunity to get another birth. So he'll come in here and Arjuna says, Krishna, you are the only person who can explain to me. So nobody else can clear this doubt of mine. So please tell me. So Krishna then says, Krishna and only Krishna's devotees can give you this. Only Bhagavad Gita can. Only Krishna can. And only Guru. We all have a need to accept a Guru. Only that can dispel our doubts also completely and enable us. So Krishna gives in the last section, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities meets no destruction. A person who is spiritually inclined, he meets no destruction. Do not worry. And he, either in this world or in the spiritual world, he is successful always. Every step he takes in the spiritual path is a success. How much ever money you accumulate, when somebody dies, he's not able to take a single penny up to the heaven or towards his next birth. But anything that you take in Krishna Bhakti or in spiritual practices, whatever be the religion that you follow, when you move towards the Lord, thinking about the scriptures, it is something that can take you life after life. So the fate of an unsuccessful yogi, after a short practice, he may enjoy heavenly planets for some time, but then he again comes back into the earthly kingdom. Sometimes he gets better birth because he gets a human birth, number one, and then he may get a better birth so that it will enable him to reconnect. But an unsuccessful yogi who falls after long practice, he sometimes comes back, but he is already on a final stage, like Bharata and others, he failed by 1 mark, but he got 99 marks. The failure here is not 100. He failed by just 1 mark. So he sometimes gets another birth, but he completes that 1 mark and he goes back home, back to garden. He revives yoga practice wherever he left off. That's important. Let us all understand. So this is the only thing. If you want to invest money and not lose a pie, anything that you invest in the body, in material life, in money, Bitcoin, this, that, ultimately, when the body is lost, everything associated is lost. But here, it is the real investment. You are non-diminishing asset you are accumulating, and you achieve perfection. Such a yogi ultimately achieves perfection. And then he says the conclusion, the process is explained. He gets a favorable condition. He gets to supreme goal by sincere endeavor. Such a yogi, so is by sincere endeavor. Now, see, please let us not understand that in just one janma, by the mercy of the Lord, yes, in the same birth, we can go back home, back to garden. But generally, it takes us many births to come to even get this human form of life. And if we wither away this human form of life, then we get back into animal species. We have wasted millions and millions of our janmas sometimes. So we need to be careful about it. Now, this is the last 2 shlokas that I want to cover. I know I'm running a little late on time. The organizers, please forgive me. And maybe we should have, I would beg of you for 10 more minutes if you can stay for question answers, which I don't want to let go, but I've already covered the shlokas. So, yoga, what is the type of yoga? Krishna says yoga is defined as linking. And a person practicing a yogi, there are many types: tapasvi, ascetics, jnani, karmi. And he says a yogi, a bhakti yogi, is better than all of them. There are many yogas according to what type of activity you do. A person who is predominantly involved in fruitive activities, karma kanda, is in the karma yoga. And a person who by knowledge he wants to understand the Lord, empirical understanding, in the jnana yogi. But a person in devotional service, when he wants to achieve, is called a bhakti yogi. So bhakti yoga is the ultimate perfection of yoga, is what the Lord brings about here. This is the last shloka. Yoginam api sarvesham madghate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, renders transcendental loving service to me. He is most intimately united with me in the yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Yoginam api sarvesham. Note, we are in the last of the first section, which is the 6th chapter. He's talked of Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. And he says, out of all the yogis, Madgaten, that is, he is leading to Bhakti Yoga. The 7th chapter leads to Bhakti Yoga. So such a devotee takes shelter in the Lord, has faith in the Lord, is always thinking about him. He is always rendering service, and that is a topmost Bhakti yogi. So karma, jnana, ashtanga, bhakti, and that is the process that the Lord is leading to. And that will then take us to this last part that compares. I'm not getting into detail here, but he compares very clearly and he says, out of all the yogis, Bhakti yogi is ultimate because he's selfless. He's free from material desires. He does everything for Krishna. And even the Ashtanga Yoga has to come up to this point, otherwise he is also a failure. And therefore, this is the ultimate process that the Lord is recommending. And this is a busy slide, I've told all, but from tomorrow onwards, we will get into the 7th chapter. The section 7th to 12th chapter is mainly going to talk about bhakti. And so the Lord, in the 6th chapter, has brought it up to the stage of bhakti. And that's where we are. Forgive me. I think I'm almost 10 minutes clearly late, but this is a very big topic. Combining 2 chapters was very large. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I stop my share, and if there are any questions, I would have a co-panelist today, and please, and I'm sure you have posted. I've not seen any of the messages on the chat. I would request my co-host to join me, and I would like to see your face. Who's that? Is Beam going to be there with me, or Nand Kishore?
Srila Prabhu, it is Nand Kishore Prabhu will be there with you, and also we have a surprise.
Yeah.
His Holiness BPS is with us.
Can you spotlight his face? I want to at least take his blessings.
Yeah.
And thank you for not telling me this ahead. I would have been very nervous.
Maharaj,
His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami, one of the very senior leaders of ISKCON and one of the co-organizers who guides us administratively, is also here. It's okay if he's not on the video, but Maharaj, you want to just say Hare Krishna and bless us for the question answer session? Okay, over to questions. Nand Kishore, guide us. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for your blessings. Yeah, Nand Kishore. In Kali Yuga, okay, I just see a question. That question is gone. Nand Kishore, take on the first questions, please. Okay, I'm seeing a question now while Nankesh was not unmuted. In Kali Yuga, we are limited in our memory. Can we have consolidated 15 points to practice? Yes. We are going to give it to you on the 16th day, not the 15th day. On the 16th day, we are going to tell you what all the Lord says, and we will consolidate and give you 15 points, as you say, or 18 points. Yes. But, one time going through this overview will not suffice. So you need to review it again and again, but we will try and make it as simple as we can.
Hare Krishna, bro. Hare Krishna.
Please take on.
Yeah. So the first question is why I feel Nishkam Karma's application in real life is really difficult. How can we overcome that? So what great saintly person's advice on this is that we feel it is difficult for the first reason because we are in an illusion, and secondly, we are accustomed to that life for long. An example is given that when someone fractures his hand and he's tied his hand for long, then coming back, bringing his hand back to normal seems very difficult for him or seems unnatural for him. So we have been time immemorial doing work for our enjoyment. Now when we are asked to get Nishkam, leave it and do it for Krishna, it becomes difficult. But how can we overcome that? Srila Prabhupada will always say practice. Nobody learns, he used to say, anything overnight. You practice, and when we practice something, naturally we get accustomed to doing it and it becomes easy to do. So yes, it will feel a little difficult because we are in illusion, and for a long time we have subscribed to the illusory views which the mind imposes on us. But however, when we practice, and then we can overcome that, and that's what saintly people advise us to practice. And even they say that material life is not easy. We say spiritual life is difficult, but who says that material life is easy? And we can very well see this in the current time. So, but still we do it. A child doesn't like to go to school. It's difficult. Still he does it. Sometimes we don't like to go to work. There's office politics. Still we go. So same way, we don't feel like going to the temple. Still we go. We don't feel like chanting Hare Krishna. Still we do. So it's not that only spiritual life is really difficult. Material life is difficult. And in one sense, it's impossible because no matter what you do, it will just bring you back to square one, as they say. So yeah, that way we can, with this
I see a question here. Yep, go ahead, finish. I thought you finished.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Prabhu, you're taking the next question?
Yeah, I saw a question here to say, what are the three gunas? And many of these concepts seem new. Please, sattva, rajas, tamas means mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. These are called the modes of nature. So I would request just hold patience. In one other chapter, we shall cover that more into depth. Let's have a few rapid fire questions, Nandkishore.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Many say that you have one human life, enjoy instead of doing the penances and all. They tell God would not want us to do all that. How can that be explained? Well, people are there, so they'll say anything, but we need to accept what is Shastra. And Krishna says that it's not only one human life we have. And when we enter the 14th chapter, we will see in verse number 18, where Krishna says that Madhyam Tishtati Rajasa. So if you're in the Rajogun, you will still come back in this planetary system and continue your Rajasic activities. So it's not that we have only one human life. That's according to Shastra. And God does not tell us to do penance, and God tells us to enjoy. If someone tells you that, then we can tell them, please show us in which verse God is telling that. In the whole of Bhagavad Gita, we wouldn't find a single verse where God is telling you to enjoy the material world. Rather, He's in every way telling you that material pleasures are temporary, leave it all and surrender unto me. So, yeah, people may say, then we should kindly ask them, yeah, can you please show me in which verse Krishna is telling that enjoy human life instead of surrendering unto Him? And they would be caught there.
However, I need to only add that point that doesn't mean devotional service or bhakti means no enjoyment, because as a bhakta, you are definitely enjoying nice Krishna prasadam, nice association, everything that people do partying out, we also do. We also eat quite a lot of Krishna prasadam. We mingle and socialize with devotees. We do so many activities. There is enjoyment. What is enjoyment? The view of enjoyment is all that is moved in here. Enjoying as a party, being drunk out and being knocked out, no, but enjoy in the company with your consciousness fully aware. That's the importance. So the object of enjoyment changes. That is all. The view of enjoyment changes. Now, there's one question about, we talk about bhakti yoga, but physical strength is also important. Physical yoga, yes. As long as you have a body, you have to keep your body, in good shape. You need to do it. So that's why all of these Ashtanga Yoga is required, but not just Ashtanga. You have to go beyond Ashtanga, just not yoga asanas. When we are talking about it, people in the modern day are just limiting to yoga asanas. We have to rise above. Okay? The Bhakti Yoga does not have too many rules. There are many rules. Ashtanga got too many rules. Bhakti Yoga have got simple rules. Bhakti Yoga is made easy for us as grahasthas and people from all walks of life to perform. Ashtanga Yoga is very rigid and very tough. That's what is being brought in as a comparison. Yep, Nankishore, any other
There's one question: why are we learning so much about yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and more, when the simple process for us is to chant and be happy? Sorry, but I'm confused every time I read these chapters 4, 5. Krishna Conscious process seems very simple, and these chapters seem very complicated. Yeah, that's the very reason that the Lord speaks them, so that we can conclude that we rather take the easier process of chanting Hare Krishna. And for the current age, Ashtang Yoga and Dhyan Yoga is going to be difficult. And once I heard a saintly person also say that if the Lord didn't speak about them, then we would be still wondering maybe they are good. So the Lord puts everything in place and says, this is not, it's not going to be, as Arjun himself says, it's not possible for him. It's easier to control the wind than the mind in this way. So then Krishna makes a comparison, and then thus we come to the conclusion that Krishna consciousness is simple and easily done.
There's a question here to say, why does Krishna come only when bad increases to protect good people at the end of the Yuga? Actually, Krishna is there at all times. It's not that he has to come. Krishna is eternally present. But he specifically comes at different times to protect his devotees and to kill the miscreants. And not only that, for us to be able to think about his leelas. But when everything is good, that means people are thinking about the Lord, and they are. When you think about the Lord is with you. So the Lord is there with them even then, but the Lord sometimes has to come specifically for us to protect the devotees and to kill or finish off the miscreants. Any other questions? One last question.
There's a very nice question, Prabhu, which a common question. If someone believes in Nishkam Yoga and doesn't have anger and lust, but doesn't chant and believe in Lord, is he or she still good devotee of the God? If someone believes in Nishkam Yoga, but again, Lord Krishna uh, puts this like the progression, how that first we are doing things for our enjoyment, and then we have Nishkam Yoga, but eventually we need to progress from there or also come to the platform of fully surrendering unto Him. So these are stages in which one elevates to the platform of pure devotional service. We shouldn't be just stuck at Nishkam, which is like working without our enjoyment, but we need to ultimately culminate in working for the pleasure of the Lord.
And if somebody can say that he's got no anger and no lust, it's a great stage to be in. You're very favored by the Lord. And I'm sure if you just add to that the icing of chanting the names of the Lord, it makes it perfect. It polishes and makes you the best diamond in life. So I think, should we close this for this particular moment? And maybe, even the questions yesterday, Jagan Prabhu, you want to say something about the questions and how we have posted on the landing page? I'm done, unless there's any other question that you want me to answer.
Hare Krishna, devotees, once again, thanks for your lovely participation. So we have started publishing the question and answers. So the question and answers for the first session are already ready. You will receive a detailed document. It will be posted on the website and also in any other communication channel that the organizers have decided to. Thanks a lot for continuously asking questions. And again, I assure you that each and every question of yours will be answered. So as I told you, the session once question answer document will be released today or early morning tomorrow. And all these days we have been asking you to ask questions. So we thought, why not we ask you questions? It's what is that only you should ask our question. So from today onwards, we'll be publishing almost a daily quiz or a quiz once in 2 days. So it's a turn that we ask you the questions. So just like the way we are committing that we are going to answer all of your questions, I request your participation to answer our questions through the quiz. So quiz is a very good way of revising what you have understood and what we have told. It also helps us to understand how we are delivering the message. Are we delivering the message in the proper way that is palatable to you, that is conducive to you? So kindly please participate in this quiz. It's a self-paced quiz. You can do it on your own at your own time. But each question is timed. Once you start the quiz, you have to finish it. It will not take more than 10 minutes of your time. So kindly participate. You can do multiple times, but whenever you do the repeat time, you can give a different name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Yeah, thank you, Shivala Prabhu, and thank you, Jagan Prabhu. I have one small announcement to make. For those who don't have Bhagavad Gita, I'll share my screen now. Okay, the Bhagavad Gita is available. It will be delivered in India for 15 dirhams. And if somebody wants in Dubai, also it can be delivered at the rate of 25 dirhams. Please contact this following number. WhatsApp number is +91 99 522 59511. Also, you can email them ebooks2gift@gmail.com.
It's available in any language. It's available in multi languages. Thank you.
Yeah. We will share this ad in our landing page. You can take the details from there. Okay.
You're waiting for me, Jagan?
Yes, bro.
Thank you very much to all of you for giving me this opportunity. And I think last 2 days we've had two chapters each day. So it's a little bit of a stuffing together. But then from tomorrow onwards, it'll be a little more soft-paced. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all will be single chapters. So we'll move on, and we'll be introducing a few other concepts as we move on. The second last day, we'll have a complete question answer session. And one day we will also be introducing another scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam, that is, completely about the Lord. Bhagavad Gita is the instructions of the Lord. And one day we will introduce Bhagavatam. And the last day, we will have a full synopsis of the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And on the 25th, which is Friday, which is Gita Jayanti, we'll have an opportunity over many hours to chant all the verses in Sanskrit, and maybe have some aspects connected to the Gita Jayanti. Thank you from my side. Thank you, Jai Govind. Over to you to close.
Yeah, thank you all for joining in. Tomorrow we will meet up at again 7:30 p.m. same time. Till then, Hare Krishna.